game's changed like completely in the last 3 or 4 years. You know, guys like Remco, Pogacar, you know, everyone's kind of like looking for the next superstar that's going to win the Tour at 19, and sport moves on and it progresses, and it's just making sure that you, well, ideally stay ahead of that curve, which Sky was for so long. Obviously now Jumbo have taken over, and that's the challenge, and that's what we got to try to get up to and overtake ideally.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Move podcast. This is our second episode in our special series, The Move Legends. I'm Johan Bruyneel, and on the other side of the ocean, good morning to my co-host, George Hincapie. George, how's it going?
Good afternoon, actually. It's almost 12:30 here, but it's going well. Okay. Thank you. Very excited to have Geraint Thomas on the show with us today. A big legend, one of the biggest of the sport, and one of the most well-liked riders in the peloton. And I think it's an honor for us to have him on.
Yeah. So, you know, you just said it, Geraint Thomas. I think he's a real legend. Multiple world champion on the track, winner of all the main big stage races in cycling, such as Paris-Nice, Tour of Romandie, Tour de Suisse, Dauphiné, and above all, winner of the Tour de France. Welcome, Geraint Thomas. And thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. You're currently in Mallorca at the first get-together of Team Ineos, I guess. How's it going over there?
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's, mate, it's busy. These December camps are just like, you do a lot of training, but then afterwards it's just meeting after meeting. And obviously there's been a bit of change with management. So, you know, all the guys, the senior management, I know them all, but they're all sort of trying to create something that's slightly different to what has been going on. So there's a lot of meetings, but you know, a lot of young guys as well. I'm feeling old, mate. Like, you know, we've got a young AJ who's, you know, from America. He's 18. You know, young Magnus Sheffield, I'm rooming with him. So, but yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's a good way to sort of get everyone together.
Yeah, you'll have to say hello to Magnus. He's a great kid, and we're excited to see his progression. What a talent on the bike.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Move Legends. I'm just going to duck in here for a second and tell you about a couple of our partners, which I think will interest you quite a bit. In particular, this first one, Bicycle. All right. It's funny. I talked to it about friends. It's like, when did the cost of a bike become comparable to buying a brand new motorcycle? Seems like it happened overnight, and it's a real thing. And so maybe you're a roadie and you want to explore mountain biking or vice versa, or you want to start doing some gravel riding, but you don't want to break the bank because you've already bought a road bike. Well, you can pick up an extra bike, add it to your quiver on Bicycle. It's over 15,000 pre-owned and refurbished road, gravel, mountain, and tri bikes. And the whole platform is super easy to use. They've set it up so well. You can go in and say, I want this size, this style of riding, and this price point, disc brakes or rim brakes. You can set it all up and do the query exactly the way you want it. And then you can just buy it. And they've gone through these bikes, they vetted them, and you can save yourself hundreds, if not thousands, getting that bike you always wanted. So check it out. For a limited time, you can save up to $100 off your purchase by entering the code THEMOVE, all one word, all caps, THEMOVE, at checkout. Go to Bicycle, and trust me, you're going to get addicted to this site and love checking out their inventory. Bicycle.com, BUYCYCLE.com, and use the code THEMOVE at checkout. I'm also really, honestly, personally excited to tell you about a new partner of ours, and that is Kudo Popcorn. Oh my gosh, Kudo Snacks. It's funny, our sales guy, Lars, sometimes just has our sponsors send stuff to us, and I had not gotten the memo that this is a new partner. And this box of Kudo snacks showed up, their Kudo popcorn. And I was like, oh, wow, what is this? And my wife was asking me, who is this? I go, I don't know. I got to assume it's a new partner. And we both quickly fell in love with it. Because, you know, it's funny. We're pretty diligent about eating well at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But it's those snacks that can derail you. And having a Kudo popcorn at your disposal is one of the best things that ever happened to me. The flavors are great. Garlic, Parmesan, white cheddar, and my favorite, the salty, sweet kettle corn. You are going to want a bunch of this in your pantry. You're going to throw it in your car. You're going to keep it at your office. You're going to keep it in your backpack. And it's going to fill those little voids with a really tasty treat that you're going to love. For a limited time, you can get an exclusive 25% discount when you use the code THEMOVE at kudosnacks.com. Kudo. Kudosnacks.com. That's 25% off with the code THEMOVE at kudosnacks.com. Save some money, support the official protein popcorn of the UFC, and get popped.
Johan mentioned some of your results in the intro. What he didn't mention, and which I'm personally fond of, is your classics expertise. And I got a story. I've done a lot of fun. I've pretty much done everything you can do on the bike. A lot of cool shit. And this probably you don't even remember, but for some reason this one really stands out to me. 2011 Tour of Flanders. You and I get dropped on the Mur de Grammont, and we're behind the likes of Philippe Gilbert, Cancellara, Nick Nuyens, Alessandro Ballan, and you and I get to the top together. And it was one of those moments we just looked at each other and said, we got nothing to lose here. We need to work together and get back. And we caught back up right at the start of the Bosberg, back in the front group, back in it for the win. And we kind of just looked at each other. We put it all in. Just you and I. We weren't teammates. You were a young kid. Obviously, I'd heard a lot about you. But I felt like, for me, it was just super cool to do that with you. You're a national champion. We caught right back, and we're back in it for the win. And obviously, we didn't win. I got 6th. I think you got 10th. But it was a special moment for me in my career, and I remember it quite fondly.
Yeah, no, it's mad you say that. I told Magnus the exact same story last night because I told him I was coming on the pods with you, and yeah, it was. That's my memory of racing with you on a bike is that race and those final like 20Ks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I grew up loving Belgium. You know, that's going over from the UK on the boat, on the ferry. You know, racing Belgium on the weekend, and those races always were really fond. Like I held them close to my heart. So to be in that position, as you say, for me, for a start, just being with you, chasing back onto the Bosberg was just nuts. I remember you went around a few corners. I was like, well, mate, I just had to just like let the brakes go and just, blind faith I was following you. But and then I looked around, as you say, Cancellara and Boonen and all these guys, like Fletcher was in the same team as me. I was trying to do a bit for him, but yeah, just to be in that situation, the first time I'd really been, it was the first time in a classic like Flanders in the front was something I'll definitely always remember.
Yeah. So was that that was sort of your breakout year? I mean, because you did really well with a couple of the other pre-Flanders races, and you started making a name for yourself in those types of races.
Yeah. So I won, didn't win. I was second in Dwars Doors behind Nick Nuyens.
Yep.
And then he obviously won that day. And yeah, it was my first real, I guess, season in the mix, so to speak. And yeah, it was just from there, I was still sort of classed as a track rider, really. But as I say, I loved the one days, and that was my initial target, really, those sort of races. And, we're still racing track. So, at the Olympics the next year in London. So that was the main reason I wanted to ride the Olympics, was because there was a home Olympics, and my best way of winning a medal was on the track in the team pursuit. So, if it'd been somewhere else, I may have just left the track behind and just focused on the road. But yeah, that was my first real taste of, being there in the mix in Belgium, and absolutely loved it. And, the next few years I was still trying to, get a result in Flanders or Roubaix, never quite came off. Won an E3 on the way, but sort of, just never quite came through in those races in the end. But, getting to the twilight of my career now, and it's certainly something I'd love to just go back to at least one more time.
Mm. That's a big change. It's completely different cycling, of course.
Yeah.
But if we 2007 was your first real season as a pro, right? On Barbell World. I remember you were.
That's correct. Yeah.
I think I remember you were the youngest participant in the Tour de France that year.
Yeah. Which isn't that young anymore. I was 21 though, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I checked, and I thought you were 19, but then I saw you were 21. So nowadays that's just normal. But we all know you as the rider on Sky Ineos. I think you're the only rider left that's there from the very beginning, right? From the first year.
Yeah, that's correct. And
yeah,
and maybe one or two staff, but yeah, Carsten's still here. Other than that, I think it's just me and him. So
yeah. So what I would like to ask you, we've seen Team Sky / Ineos being, coming up, and then after 2-3 years being the kind of the benchmark team in terms of scientific approach and marginal gains and whatever you want to know it. Let's say from the beginning until 2018-19. Now I think is Jumbo, right? Which is at position, but yet you were able to bounce back in 22 and 23. By being third in the Tour, being second in the Giro. Do you still feel like experience and patience and this multi-year endurance that you've built up, is that still possible to weigh up against all this young talent on those super high-tech teams, like we see them today, in terms of what's your feeling about that?
Yeah, I feel like the main thing for me is the mentality and like how I feel in my head. And I feel like I still really enjoy racing, but I still also can really enjoy everything else that goes into it and all the commitment and the sacrifice and everything you got to make to get to the top. And I feel like that's the main reason I've been able to continue that, but also, be able to change as well and adapt and take on these new ways of training or nutrition or whatever it is. I think that's also key. And yeah, for sure, the experience and all those years of, racing a bike definitely help. But it just never gets easy. Every year you have to try and get better. I did actually get my best 5-minute power ever this year, but it's just hard work. But it's something, as I say, it's the enjoyment and the sacrifice is still there. So I think that's the main thing. But yeah, these young guys now though, it's just the game's changed like completely in the last 3 or 4 years. Guys like Remco, Pogacar, and I think they've changed the mindset of sports directors as well and teams. Everyone's kind of like looking for the next superstar that's going to win the Tour at 19, and it's kind of it's kind of off kilter to me. It feels like I feel like some teams are DSM, even us, for example. We got a ton of young guys now. And it's almost like the squad is sort of unbalanced in a way. But that's just kind of that's the trend at the minute, that's the way it is. I just try to just kind of help the younger guys, but at the same time, the main thing is me as a sports person, as an athlete, and do everything I can. Lead by example, but I'm not one to sort of go in a room and shout and scream and tell them what to do. It's still 100% about myself performing as best I can, really.
Well, I mean, more credit to you at 36, 37, to be able to be third in the Tour behind arguably the two best stage racers in the world, Vingegaard and Pogacar, and this year almost winning the Giro. I mean, I think it speaks volumes of your mindset and your attitude. But it's curious that you say this year you performed your best 5 minutes. I've read, for example, also that in several media outlets that when you were third in the Tour in 2022, that your output numbers were better than when you won very dominantly in 2018. Is that true?
Yeah. Across the board, they were stronger. The one that stands out is my 20-minute power. I did my best ever in that Tour up Blanchabelle-Fille. I think for sure, without sounding like a dick, in 2018, I never felt I was really on the limit. I felt I still had a bit in reserve and I never had to go super deep. But I also feel like, I have improved since then. The whole peloton has, I think, that's only natural. And that's why it's hard to compare like generations, because stuff we're doing now, we definitely weren't doing in 18, and stuff, training, all this type of stuff. Like we had more knowledge in 18 than we did in, when Brad won, for instance, in 12. So I think it's just sport moves on and it progresses, and it's just making sure that you, well, ideally stay ahead of that curve, which Sky was for so long. Obviously now Jumbo have taken over, and we're sort of more the hunter rather than being hunted, which is obviously a slightly different mindset, but I think it's a massive challenge, and one which I'm still want to be a part of and super relishing. 2 more years, I'm pretty sure I'm going to stop then. I can't see myself being 40 in this peloton. I think that would just that's too much. But no, that's the challenge, and that's where we got to try to get up to and overtake ideally.
Jay, talk about so you were, like Johan mentioned, on you guys were like the OGs in terms of the marginal gains, and that was early on in 2011, 2012. What has changed since then from 2011, 2012 till now? I mean, I see guys that I'll ride with on occasion. I mean, how strict they are in terms of their diet and everything. Every single facet of their life is now measured. How do you have fun now in the sport of cycling when, I mean, obviously you must be doing similar things because you're still one of the best. Mentally, how do you get over that? I know that once you're in that level and you're getting paid well physically, that's almost the easiest part. You push yourself, that's your job, you got to do. But mentally, how do you keep punishing yourself, and how do you keep up in the games in terms of measuring everything you can do in your life?
Yeah, for me, I need the downtimes. I'm not super strict on myself all year round, 12 months of the year. I certainly have a good off season, enjoy myself complete. To be honest, probably not the best. I'm probably like 5 kilos overweight, and most of the kids here are all race weight and just giving me an absolute kick in this week. But, for me, it's the mental side. I really need to just completely switch off, enjoy life. I've got a 4-year-old kid. Just enjoy being home and all that type of stuff. And then obviously the intensity ramps up. Christmas, you got to sort of, there's a few days where you can just, be normal and enjoy it. But from there on, it's full on. And you do go into that whole sort of data and everything's measured. For me, the biggest thing is nutrition. I've mentioned it already, but, weighing out food, weighing out your pasta, weighing out your protein. And it's intense, and I can do it and commit to it for a set period, but I can't live like that all year round. And that's a big thing as well when you see young guys in the team. Like, I keep telling them, you don't have to get drunk to have a good time, but find something outside of the sport that you enjoy doing and make sure you do it, because you just see they're so intense. Like from, off season, if they have 2 weeks off, they like start shitting themselves thinking they need to ride the bike again. I had about 5.5 weeks off this year. I think it's more the mental as much as the physical. And it's just getting them to realize that, like, if you want a long career, you need to, there's peaks and troughs, and it's doing everything at the right time. So, but sorry, to answer your question, for me, it's certainly having downtime and then being on it when you got to be.
Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit? You were very open about your off-season activities, saying somewhere
that got blown up a bit.
12 days out of 14 you were, I'm not going to say drunk, but inebriated. I would a bit tipsy. Can you what was going on? What was going on? And was it with your family?
Well, basically, from the Vuelta, I rode the Vuelta and it was a terrible Vuelta, and like mentally I just needed to get away and have a break. And I didn't go crazy. I stayed in Monaco, where we live with my wife and my son. And just sort of, he was in school, like preschool, 3 hours a day. So it was okay. I'd ride my bike a little bit, have a couple of drinks, but nothing crazy. But then I went to Ibiza on this like cycling holiday thing. And for some reason, I didn't think it'd be drinking so much, but I should have really thought about it. Ibiza is a party island. So it was 3 big nights. And then from there, I went to Cardiff, and basically, that's where I'm from, born and bred. And I had a ton of people I wanted to catch up with, basically. And I hadn't been home for so long. Like these days, this year I did the Giro and the Vuelta. So, it was a hell of a lot of altitude before that. And there was just basically no downtime. So it felt like I was on it a lot. So went back to Cardiff. And in the UK, if you meet up with someone, you either go out for food or go to the pub, and basically every night I was meeting some mates and, family as well. And it ended up being a very heavy couple of weeks, but it's what I needed, what I enjoyed doing. And I mentioned it in, I don't know where it was, just some random interview, just mentioned, I've probably been drunk for about 12 of the last 14 days, and suddenly it just blew up everywhere. And it's on, so many people have mentioned it to me, but yeah, that's my sort of time to switch off. And
good on you. I think you deserve it after such a long season, and basically, I think you're respected enough, also within the team, that you know what you have to do. You're a pro, so I think it's only fair.
Thanks.
So, G, when you coming into the
phone call from the management or anything, so it's all right.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I know Johan would have called me if I said that out in the press, no doubt. But when you're
changed, George, I've changed. I've become mellow now. I've changed.
Again, I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Move Legends. And I'm just going to duck in for a second because I want to tell you about a couple of our partners. We all use this stuff. We only advertise and tell you about things that we use and believe in. And we've been telling you for some time about Ketone IQ by HVMN. There's a reason that 70% of the peloton is using it. It does enhance performance. It does make you feel better. But my favorite thing about it is the mental sharpness, mental clarity. I've said this before, and I'm not kidding you. I was on Adderall for, I don't know, the last several decades. Lost track. Have not been on it for up to a year now. And I attribute my success and well-being without it to starting to take Ketone IQ shots every single day. It has really helped with the mental clarity, the focus, everything about it is great. You can pick it up at Sprouts, wherever you live, if you want to go in and get it. But I highly recommend doing a subscription order and give it a 3 to 6 month trial. Like, that's why the subscription is great. And you can get a discount on it, which I'll tell you about in a second. But give it that time, time for your body to adjust and see what's going on. You'll feel a difference. I have, and I think you will too. So you can save 30% on your first subscription order at Ketone IQ, and that is at hvmn.com/themove. Again, visit hvmn.com/themove and subscribe upon checkout for 30% off. Last but not least, I got to tell you about our partners at Helix Sleep. And I'd love it when an industry gets disrupted, right? Who would have thought you could just get a mattress sent to you in the mail? It's kind of freakish, actually, because as you drive around, and trust me, when you're driving around tomorrow, look around, you're going to see a mattress store. Well, that's a lot of overhead for one. And the product may not be the best you can get. Again, disruptor. Helix Sleep has figured out how to send it to your door. I don't know how they compress it the way they do into that box, and you open it up and then it slowly expands. And it's been great. We've been sleeping on a Helix mattress for a couple of years now. And prior to that, we went to the local store. We bought what we thought was the newest, latest, greatest. We replaced it with this, and it's been undeniably a good choice in our life. So if you're not sleeping well, you want to sleep better, maybe your mattress is too old, you need to check it out. There is a reason that Helix Sleep has over 12,000 5-star reviews online. All right, check it out. They also support military, first responders, teachers, and students by giving them a special discount. Helix Sleep is offering 20% off on all mattress orders and 2 free pillows. The pillows are great too. For all of our listeners, go to helixsleep.com/themove. All one word, the move. helixsleep.com/themove. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix Sleep, better sleep starts now.
Well, talk about your kind of sort of re-entry, because a lot of people, once they put weight on, I know for me, it was always just a month of just struggle, just especially as I got later on in my career, where you're like, am I going to be able to get this back? But obviously you have a ton of confidence. You know what you need to do. What's been your reentry this year? Has it gone as expected as the other years, or a little bit tougher, or about the same?
It feels similar. I feel like the last few years here, as we mentioned earlier, the whole peloton has got physically better and more professional. So December's always been a struggle. Like, people are always going quite well and just kick my head in a bit. But yeah, it's the same sort of process for me. Come January, it's full on. I'm pretty hard on myself. I kind of like punish myself a bit. You restrict yourself a bit. But yeah, I have to just sort of remind myself to stay with the new age and new thinking of, fueling well on the bike and not completely just bonking every ride. It's probably, well, no, it's definitely not the ideal way of doing it, but it's kind of how I've got used to working, basically. And January is always a tough month. But then you're kind of down to a decent weight at the end of that. I'm not quite Jan Ullrich style. I don't think I'll blow up quite as big as what he used to. But it makes January tough, but then we go to altitude end of January as well now, which is another sort of big change, a lot more altitude, as I said, and that helps to shift the weight as well. And yeah, by Feb, you're sort of at least ready to race. You're down in the low 70s, 70, 71, and I race at around 68, 69, and it's just a gradual, you just gradually lose that weight over that period of time. Then it's not like one big sort of, it's not like a boxer where you have like 2 or 3 weeks and you shed a load of weight. So it's done progressively, but yeah.
Has it gotten, I mean, back in when you first started, old school, was just like, we'd basically just starve ourselves. Has the programming gotten better where you know exactly what you need to eat, the right sort of foods, where you're not essentially starving yourself, you're just eating more of the right foods and calculating your deficits more scientifically?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's the right food at the right time. Timing is a big thing these days as well. Like when you have your protein or your carb or this and that. And we've just done some new sort of metabolic tests as well over like a week, which should help, give even more info and numbers on how, well, my body specifically is working at the minute. So it's a hell of a lot of science. And it's just being strict with yourself then. I've always, like, as I say, really enjoyed the off season, but then when it comes to it, you have to knuckle down 100% and get it done then. So yeah, I find I'm able to do that.
Geraint, I don't know if you're able to talk about it, but I wanted to ask you about the management within Team Ineos and the shakeup as it happened in the last few months. I mean, I think a lot of has happened behind the scenes, and all of a sudden we were surprised to see the principal Ellingworth going. And with that, I was a bit surprised also to see that your team is actually one of the teams that made the least new signings. I think a part of Tobias Voss and the young American AJ August, who we talked about, who apparently, I think Axel Merckx qualified him as Remco with more power. So that's very promising.
Okay.
But what can you give us an insight on, as good as you can, or if you're allowed, what happened inside the team, the change of management, and why so few signings?
For a start, I respected Rod a lot. I knew him since, I don't know, 2004 maybe, when I was a junior. Went on to academy with him then, and he was running the under-23 program when we were under-23s, obviously, British cycling. So known him a hell of a long time, and it was sad to see him go. It was pretty surprising. I think, to be honest, I don't know 100% full story, but I know sort of his family.
Did you see it coming? Did you see it coming at all?
Not really. I knew like he was struggling a little with the way the team was working at the time, but then also with his family and stuff. I think he's got 3 kids, and that was a huge factor. I haven't really spoke to him much, only a brief phone call. So family and home life was definitely a big part of it as well. So yeah, for us, the riders, it was for the majority, for sure, it was a shock. But yeah, it's just happened. You know, that's the way it is. Dave B's obviously got a different role now as well, so it would be great to have him around more, but it's just not possible. Things change. He's part of like Ineos Sport, which looks after a hell of a lot of other sports, you know, sailing. He's part of the whole Man United takeover thing now. So yeah, it's changing quickly. And as I mentioned briefly, you know, we've got this new sort of senior management team, although most of them have been around in the team for a period of time, at least sort of like 2 years or so. Some have left and come back. So it's a lot of change, and there's meetings to sort of, they want to take the team in a slightly different direction, I guess, put a bit of their stamp on it, try and start afresh. I think also from the team's point of view, I think they sort of, burdened is probably too strong a word, but the success of Sky, you know, is a big sort of like a cloud, or I don't know what, but it's something just hanging over the team. You know, like Sky was so good and dominant, and you know, we won. How many do like it was? Brad Brumi won 4, 5, 6. So we won 7 tours in like 8 years. You know, it was unbelievable the success we had. So the fact, if we don't win it or win a Grand Tour, that's seen as like a terrible season, which is good in a way. It's good to have high standards and it's good to keep them. But I think it's also tough at the same time, you know. And as we've mentioned, we've got a young team. It takes them. Yeah, hopefully AJ is the new Remco with more power, because that would be great for us, you know, give us something to go at. But you know, it just takes these young guys a bit of time to sort of develop as well. Luckily, it's not like football though, or soccer. You know, in football in the UK, it's very cutthroat, and like, you know, if something happens, the manager's gone boom, and so at least it's not like that. But it's certainly different times now. It's certainly, although it's not, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel either. It's just subtle changes, but it's definitely a different atmosphere team to say 5 years ago, for sure.
Yeah, and in terms of the signings, you know, we've seen Sivakov leaving, Toulet leaving, Theo leaving, some important, right? I mean, Dani Martinez leaving, and in exchange, there's very few additions. Is there a specific reason for that, or what's the situation there? Because we're reading all these reports, but we may as well hear it from the horse's mouth. What's the reason?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I guess, you know, budgets come into it. You know, all those guys, I guess when you have a lot of good guys that perform better and want more money, and if the money's not there, it's hard to make it happen. I was disappointed to see, well, all those good boys go, but especially Theo and Pavel, because I spent a lot of time with them over the years, especially this year. So that was super sad to see. You know, but yeah, I can't actually speak for the recruitment part of the team, but you know, yeah, as I keep saying, that's kind of the situation we're in. Yeah, I don't know what else to sort of expand on that really, because I don't really know. But yeah, all I can say is that the new guys coming in, obviously Tobias, you know, won the world, so you know, he's a great guy, and the 2 young guys coming in as well. Hopefully they can step up as well.
Yeah, and then of course you still have young talent on board. You know, Carlos Rodriguez, Egan Bernal, Tom Pidcock. I mean, you have plenty of guys still that have it in them.
Yeah, speaking
of Pipo and Magnus.
Yeah, speaking of Bernal, I mean, you were teammates with obviously Chris, who had a horrible crash, and then Bernal, unfortunately, same sort of injuries, or I don't know about injuries, but the setback. Let's just say setback. How's he doing? And do you see him, you know, getting back to the top of his game next year?
He's doing really well. Like, you know, physically, from what he's just overcome, to be honest, just to be racing again. But it's tough, isn't it? It's like he doesn't have to just get back to his best. He's got to get better than what he's ever been. So, yeah. I'm confident he will. It just takes time, doesn't it? Like initially, the progression's quick, But that last sort of 10-15% is super hard. And yeah, I've got confidence the team have around him. I think he does as well from speaking to him. He's in good spirits here. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll continue that curve and continue to improve because he's an unbelievable rider. It's still good to have him around in the team as well. A lot of people still look up to him. So he still brings a lot, even though he's not necessarily at the top at the minute. But yeah, hoping he gets there.
Yeah, he was one of our other legends with Johan and Victor Hugo Pena a couple of weeks ago. So
Spanish,
in Spanish, but great guy. We're all big fans of his, and we hope for his return for sure. What about this year? What are your goals this year? Are you going to go a similar approach to last year, or you're not decided yet?
To be honest, I'd quite like to mix it up a bit. Maybe go back to the Giro, but then try and go to the Tour as well. Not to ride GC in both. I think the Giro is something that has just got that fire in my belly to just go back and at least try again, see what I can do. No, I'd love the challenge of sort of just trying to back up with the Tour, go there and help the guys. Carlos obviously 5th last year, young rider. Tom Pidcock obviously still sort of finding his way. So, try and help them a bit, go for a stage myself. But it's more, that's ideally what I would like to do, but it's on the team, I guess, in it to tell me really. That's what a lot of the discussions here have been about really, whether I do that or if I just go to the Tour with those boys and, prepare all year, more of a traditional sort of year. But what I've quite liked in recent years is just mixing up a bit. Once you get to my age, you going into my 18th year as a pro, it's nice to do something a bit different. That keeps you sort of fresh as well, I think.
Yeah, so you weren't watching the Tour, missing it this past season?
It was kind of weird because me and Luke weren't at the Tour, and then we were doing our podcast as well, and it felt like we were turning into like directors that immediately turned from being a rider to being like, it's not cold, it's only 5 degrees, get on with it.
Yeah.
It felt like we turned into those sports fans that just sat on the sofa really. But I missed it. I definitely missed it just watching it. It's the biggest bike race in the world. Like, I'd love to go back.
We'd love to see you back there.
Nothing compares to this to the Tour. We all know that. I have one last question for you, Garen't. It was actually one of the highlights that we just had a podcast about that 23 highlights, and the last stage of the Giro. I mean, we all know you almost won the Giro. Sadly, Roglic had an amazing day on the Monte Lusaro, and you lost it by how many? I don't know, 15 seconds in total. Was it
15 seconds? Yeah.
But the last stage and your lead out for your friend Mark Cavendish. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? What was the thinking behind that? Was it planned? Did it happen during the race? Was it just an instinct? What was going on there?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't planned. I was kind of just staying out of trouble basically, and about halfway through the race, Cav comes past me. He's like, "Oh lad, if you're going to leave me out, go on the right." And I'm like, "Right, okay, Cav, yeah, whatever, not going to happen." And then literally, obviously 3K to go. Nothing's going to happen in the GC now with a crash or something. And I see Lewis Leon and Cav, no other teammates. And I was there and I was just thinking, sod it, just help him out. He's a mate, Well, also I've got nothing on tomorrow, So, I went to the front, gave him a bit of a nod. Lewis Leon comes on and the rest is history. But to be fair, I think Gaviria gave him an even better lead out, really, hitting out so long. But it was great to see him do it. We go back a long way, and to see him get that stage. I thought it was his final year. He's obviously going to go on. So, it was a great moment.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. Beautiful.
We both had the pleasure of racing with Cav, and he's, as you know, G, one of the funniest guys in the peloton, one of the best personalities, and seeing him win that stage, it was really cool to see, but also having you leading him out was awesome. And it's just a testament of, how good of a person you are and how well liked you are amongst the peloton. And, it's been a really fun time watching you both.
But I think in today's cycling, especially in today's cycling, I think it's exceptional, almost unthinkable to see something like this, so competitive. From what I hear, between teams and between riders, the respect is gone mostly. To see this camaraderie come to a success in that last stage, 2 riders on different teams being able to do this, and everybody being okay with it is also very unique, because normally this would be very controversial and nobody made a problem out of it. I'm sure within your team, nobody made a problem out of it. In Astana, for sure not. But the general public just loved it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I was surprised by the amount of messages that we got from it, to be honest. Like, to me, it was just like, why wouldn't you help a mate out? I guess when it's on one of the biggest stages of the world, it stands out a bit, doesn't it? But no, yeah, it was a great moment. And yeah, as you say, it could have gone either way, really. But it would have just been a bit nicer to have done it in pink, wouldn't it, really? But there we go.
That would have been great
next year. Yeah, or this year, for sure. Great.
So is there a hope that next year you go back to the Giro and try to win it? That's what I kind of understand in between the lines. If you have your own way.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do, ideally. Yeah. But
cool.
It's not always up to me, but yeah. Whatever happens, it's going to be. I'll go all in, commit to it, and we'll try and just get the best result and just enjoy riding my bike. Not going to do it for too much longer. It's
So you got 2 more years, G.
2 more years, yeah. But to be honest, I had my retirement. Well, we got a wedding venue, myself and my wife, and I'd already booked it out. The last sort of like twice I've booked it for my retirement party, and I've had to cancel, I had to delay. So. Maybe third time lucky, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, it's been an amazing run so far, and I'm sure you still got a lot left in that tank. And it's been fun. You also got an amazing podcast, which I listen to quite frequently. I actually just listened to the one you did with Sepp the other day. Found it really interesting. Obviously, we're all huge fans of Sepp as well, and him winning the Vuelta, and you being there and being quite vocal on a lot of the stuff that was going on with the team. I found it really interesting to hear you guys both talking about it together later on in your podcast. So for our listeners, you need to check out G's podcast. It's super cool.
Cheers, mate.
What's occurring, right? What's occurring? Or Geraint Thomas Cycling Club?
Geraint Thomas Cycling Club. Yeah, what's occurring? It's all under the same thing. But
okay.
Yeah.
Check it out. Well, thank you for your time. George, do you have anything else?
No, thank you, G. We really appreciate it. Happy holidays and good luck. All the best with the finish of camp and the start of the season.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
What an amazing interview there with Geraint Thomas. It was a pleasure to have him on the show. The Move Legends. Johan, what did you think about the interview? I thought it was super fun chatting with him.
I mean, what an amazing guy. Such an amazing long career, and still, incredible to be still at such a high level in the fall of his career, let's say, right? I mean, he is 37 years old, but still, out there. Amazing. I really liked it.
Absolutely. He's going to be one of the most iconic figures in cycling that we've ever witnessed. And speaking of iconic figures, I'm very excited about our iconic partners that are joining us for our Flanders, Strade Bianca and Paris-Roubaix camp. But we're going to have Gianni Bruyneel riding the white Tuscan roads with us in Tuscany in early March. So if you can, don't miss out on that camp. And then fast forward a month later to Tour of Flanders, my favorite race on the planet. It's got the best vibe of any race in the calendar. Last year we got to start. We were right there on the start line, and we saw all these guys lined up, ready for war, so to speak. And we're gonna have Johan Museeuw join us for that. And then the week later, we're doing the Paris-Roubaix camp with also Johan Museeuw and riding the Sportists before each and every one of them for Strade Bianca, Flanders, and Roubaix. Which has thousands of riders. It's just a great experience and one you don't want to miss.
Yeah, for sure. Check it out on our travel section on wedo.team. You go to the travel section and you can find all the information there about those 3 events in the spring and also about our usual annual camp in Mallorca. Places are filling up already now, so don't miss the opportunity and check it out. wedo.team.